The morning sun painted the fields of New Terra Colony in golden light. Captain Marcus Denton walked slowly through the wheat fields, watching his breath form small clouds in the cool air. He had arrived 3 days ago to visit his sister Alina and her twin children. After 15 years of military service, these peaceful moments felt like a gift. "Uncle Marcus, look at this." 8-year-old Kai ran toward him holding a strange blue flower he had found near the river. His twin sister Luna followed close behind, her arms full of similar flowers. "We found a whole field of them by the water," Luna said, her eyes bright with excitement. "Mom says they only bloom once every 10 years. Marcus smiled and knelt down to examine the flowers. "Your mother is right. These are memory blooms. The old colonists planted them to remember Earth." Alina appeared from the farmhouse, wiping flour from her hands on her apron. At 35, she looked younger than her years, with the same dark hair and green eyes that Marcus had inherited from their father. Life on New Terra had been kind to her. "Breakfast is ready," she called. "And Marcus, you promised to help fix the fence today." "Yes, boss," Marcus replied, making the children giggle. He had taken leave from his position with the Terran Defense Corps to spend time with his family. In 3,000 years of galactic peace, his job was mostly ceremonial anyway. The Defense Corps existed mainly to handle small disputes between colonies and to maintain order during natural disasters. Real warfare was something from the history books, a dark chapter that humanity had closed long ago when they joined the Galactic Alliance. As they walked back to the house, Marcus noticed Alina seemed troubled. She kept looking up at the sky, shading her eyes with her hand. "Something wrong?" he asked. "Probably nothing," Alina said. "The communication array has been acting strange for 2 days. We can't reach the other settlements. Tom Bradley from security thinks it might be solar interference." Marcus frowned. Solar interference was common on New Terra, but it rarely lasted more than a few hours. 2 days was unusual. They sat down to breakfast around the old wooden table that Alina's husband had built before his death in a farming accident 3 years earlier. The children chatted about their plans for the day while Alina served fresh bread and eggs from their chickens. "Can we go to the cave today?" Kai asked. "Luna wants to show Uncle Marcus the drawings we found." "After chores," Alina replied, "and only if Tom says it's safe. There have been strange reports from the outer farms." "What kind of reports?" Marcus asked, his military training making him alert to potential problems. Alina hesitated. "Animals acting scared. Some families say they've seen lights in the sky at night. Probably just meteor showers, but it makes people nervous." Marcus was about to respond when a low rumbling sound filled the air. The dishes on the table began to shake. Outside, they could hear animals making distressed noises. "Earthquake?" Luna asked, grabbing her mother's arm. Marcus stood up and moved to the window. What he saw made his blood turn cold. Massive shadows were falling across the colony as enormous ships descended from the sky. The vessels were unlike anything he had ever seen, with smooth black surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Alina, get the children to the basement now." His voice carried the authority of his military rank, and Alina immediately responded, grabbing Kai and Luna. "What's happening?" Alina asked, fear creeping into her voice. "I don't know, but we're not taking chances." Marcus opened the emergency kit that every Defense Corps officer carried, removing his sidearm and communication device. He tried to contact Defense Command, but got only static. The ships continued their descent, moving with purpose toward the colony center. Marcus could see smaller craft detaching from the main vessels and spreading out across the settlement. These were clearly not human ships, and they were definitely not here for a friendly visit. Alina called from the basement stairs. "The emergency radio is picking up something." He ran downstairs to find Alina huddled with the children, near their old emergency radio. A panicked voice was broadcasting from the colony security center. "This is Tom Bradley at Security Station 1. Unknown vessels have surrounded the colony. They are not responding to any communication attempts. All residents should shelter in place immediately. Repeat, all residents should shelter in place." The transmission cut to static, then resumed with a different voice. This one was cold, mechanical, and spoke in accented but clear English. "Citizens of New Terra Colony, we are the Vorthok Empire. You will not resist. We require specific members of your population for a purpose vital to galactic stability. Surrender the requested individuals and no harm will come to your settlement." Marcus felt Alina grab his arm. "What do they want?" she whispered. The alien voice continued. "We require all human offspring between the ages of 5 and 15 years. These individuals possess unique biological characteristics necessary for our current project. Compliance is not optional. The blood drained from Elena's face. They want the children, she said, pulling Kai and Luna closer to her. Marcus checked his weapon and looked around the basement. It was well built but would not stop advanced alien technology for long. He needed to think fast. There's a tunnel, Elena said, reading his thoughts. It connects to the old mine system. We can get to the caves without being seen. Could gather only what we can carry: food, water, medical supplies. Marcus was already moving, his military training taking over. Above them, they could hear the sound of aircraft landing and strange voices speaking in an unknown language. Then came the sounds that would haunt Marcus for the rest of his life. The screams of parents and the cries of children being taken from their homes. Elena packed quickly while Marcus tried to contact other Defense Corps personnel. Most of his attempts met with static, but he managed to reach Dr. Raven Morse, the colony's chief scientist. "Marcus, thank goodness," came the doctor's voice through the static. "I'm hiding in my lab with 5 children whose parents sent them to me. These aliens, they have technology far beyond anything we've seen. Their ships are shielded against our weapons." "Can you make it to the old mine entrance?" Marcus asked. "I think so. They seem to be working systematically through the residential areas first. Meet us there in 1 hour. Bring whatever data you can about their ships." Elena had finished packing. She handed small backpacks to Kai and Luna, then embraced them both. "Listen to me carefully," she told her children. "We're going to play a game. We have to be very quiet and stay hidden. Can you do that for Mummy?" Both children nodded, though their eyes showed they understood this was no game. Marcus led them to the hidden tunnel entrance behind the basements. False wall. The tunnel was dark and narrow, barely wide enough for an adult. They moved slowly, with Marcus leading and Elena bringing up the rear. As they crawled through the darkness, they could hear the sounds of the alien harvest above. Vehicles moving through the streets, doors being broken down, and the terrible sounds of families being torn apart. "Why are they taking only children?" Elena whispered. Marcus had been wondering the same thing. In all his years of studying galactic history, he had never heard of a species specifically targeting human children. Most alien cultures that had contact with humans showed little interest in their biological differences. They reached the mine entrance just as Dr. Morse arrived with her group. The elderly scientist looked shaken but determined. With her were 5 children ranging from about 6 to 14 years old, including Tom Bradley's daughter Amy. "I managed to scan one of their ships before I escaped," Dr. Morse said quietly. "The technology is incredible. They're using some kind of biomechanical system that I've never seen before." "Biomechanical?" Marcus asked. "Their ships appear to be partially alive. And there's something else. I detected human neural patterns in their scanning beams. They're specifically looking for human brain activity in the right age range." Elena held her children tighter. What could they possibly want with human children's brains? Dr. Morse shook her head. "I don't know, but it's nothing good." They spent the next several hours hiding in the deep caves while the Vorthok completed their harvest. Through the cave entrance, they could see the alien ships departing as the sun began to set. The colony below was eerily quiet. When darkness fell, Marcus carefully made his way back to observe the settlement. What he found broke his heart. New Terra Colony, once home to over 2,000 people, was now almost empty. The Vorthok had taken every child they could find, over 200 in total. But they had left behind something unexpected. In the main square, a small device pulsed with blue light. As Marcus approached carefully, it activated and projected a holographic message. A human woman appeared in the projection, middle-aged with graying hair, and wearing what looked like a military uniform he didn't recognize. "If you're receiving this message, then the Vorthok have visited your colony," the woman said. "My name is Colonel Lisa Park. I've been their prisoner for 20 years. I managed to plant this device during their preparation phase." Marcus leaned closer, hardly believing what he was hearing. "The children they've taken are not dead, but what they plan to do with them is worse than death. There isn't much time. The coordinates embedded in this message will lead you to where they're being held, but you must hurry. The process they call the convergence begins in 60 days. The message flickered and changed to display a star chart with coordinates that Marcus didn't recognize. "If humanity still exists as I remember it, then you've lived in peace for thousands of years. That peace is over now. To save your children, you'll have to remember how to fight." The hologram faded, leaving Marcus alone in the empty square of his sister's colony, holding the coordinates to a rescue mission that seemed impossible. Behind him, Alina emerged from the shadows, having followed him despite his orders to stay hidden. "Those coordinates," she said quietly. "They're in a part of space no human has ever explored." Marcus looked at the device in his hands, then at the empty homes around them. Somewhere in the darkness of space, Kai and Luna were being carried toward a fate he couldn't imagine. "Then it's time we learned," he said. 1 month after the attack on New Terra Colony, President Diana Cross stood before the United Earth Council in the Great Assembly Hall on Earth. The massive chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from hundreds of human worlds waited for news about their missing children. "Fellow citizens," President Cross began, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "I stand before you today with the heaviest of hearts. The Vorthok Empire has taken over 50,000 of our children from colonies across the Outer Rim." Gasps and cries of anguish filled the chamber. Many of the representatives had lost children or grandchildren in the attacks. The president waited for silence before continuing. "We have requested help from our allies in the Galactic Senate. Their response has been disappointing." On the large screen behind her, a recording began to play. It showed the alien representatives of the Galactic Senate, creatures of various shapes and sizes, sitting in their council chambers. The Draknari ambassador, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, spoke first. "The Vorthok Empire is powerful," the alien said in a cold voice. "To challenge them would mean war. War would end 3,000 years of peace. Millions would die. We cannot risk this for 50,000 human offspring." The recording continued with other alien voices saying similar things. The Zenthari representative, who looked like a giant insect, clicked his mandibles. "Humans chose to live on dangerous frontier worlds. This is the risk they accepted." President Cross stopped the recording as angry shouts erupted from the human assembly. She raised her hand for silence. "Our so-called allies have made their position clear," she said. "They value their comfortable peace more than our children's lives. Therefore, I am announcing that Earth will handle this crisis alone." In a secure military facility beneath the capital, Admiral Jake Morrison was already putting that decision into action. The veteran officer had been quietly preparing for this moment since the first reports of the attacks arrived. "Status report," Admiral Morrison said as he entered the command center. The room was filled with officers who had been called back from retirement, men and women who remembered humanity's military past. Commander Beth Taylor, Chief of Engineering, looked up from her computer. "Sir, we've successfully reactivated 6% of the mothballed fleet. The ships are old, but their weapon systems are more advanced than anything the current Defense Corps uses." "What about personnel?" Morrison asked. "We have volunteers coming from every human world," replied Captain Ryan Cross, the president's nephew who had left his civilian job to rejoin the military. "Most are former Defense Corps, but we also have civilians with technical skills." Admiral Morrison nodded. For 3,000 years, humanity had maintained only a small defense corps for emergencies. Most humans had forgotten that their peaceful society was built on the foundation of incredibly advanced military technology. On New Terra Colony, Marcus Denton was working with Dr. Raven Morse to decode the message from Colonel Lisa Park. They had set up a makeshift laboratory in the cave system where they were hiding with the surviving colonists. "The encryption is unlike anything I've seen," Dr. Morse said, adjusting her equipment. "It's definitely human, but it uses algorithms that are at least 50 years ahead of our current technology." Alina sat nearby, watching her brother work. Kai and Luna played quietly with the other children, but Marcus could see how the trauma had changed them. They jumped at sudden noises and rarely smiled anymore. "Got something," Dr. Morse announced suddenly. "The message contains more than just coordinates. There's a personal log." The device activated, showing the hologram of Colonel Lisa Park again. This time, she looked even more tired and stressed. "This is my 15th attempt to create this message," she said. "The Vorthok are suspicious of any unusual activity, so I must be careful. If you're receiving this, then they've begun the harvest phase of their plan." Marcus leaned forward, studying the woman's face. Her uniform was definitely human military, but he didn't recognize the design. 20 years ago, I was part of a diplomatic mission to establish contact with species beyond the Outer Rim," Park continued. "Our ship was captured by the They kept me alive because they needed someone who understood human biology." The hologram flickered as Park looked over her shoulder nervously. "The Vorthok Empire is dying," she said quickly. "Their species has lost the ability to innovate. They survive by taking biological traits from other species and integrating them into their own. Human children are perfect for this process because your neural pathways are still developing." Alina gasped and covered her mouth. "They're going to change our children into something else." The message continued. The process they call the convergence will merge human consciousness with Warthog collective thinking. The children will keep their memories but lose their individual identity. They become part of the Warthog hive mind. Dr. Morse paused the recording. That explains why they only want children. Adult human brains are too developed to undergo this kind of integration. Can it be reversed? Marcus asked. I don't know. Let's see what else she says. The hologram resumed. I've been working on a way to disrupt the integration process, but I need help from outside. The coordinates I'm sending will lead you to Research Station Omega 7, where they're conducting the preliminary experiments. Colonel Park's image became more urgent. You need to know that not all humans will help you. The Vorthok have been preparing for this for decades. They have human collaborators who believe that joining with the Vorthok will benefit both species. The message ended abruptly, leaving the three adults staring at the empty air where the hologram had been. Human collaborators, Elena said quietly. Our own people are helping them steal our children. Meanwhile, across human space, resistance groups were forming. On the industrial world of Titan Base, former Marine Sergeant Rico Martinez gathered a group of workers in an abandoned factory. We can't wait for the government to save our kids, Rico told the assembled crowd. The aliens took my daughter Jenny 3 weeks ago. Every day we wait is another day she suffers. The group consisted of parents, relatives, and friends of the kidnapped children. They had no military training, but they had something more powerful: desperation and determination. Captain Sophie Laurent, a former intelligence officer, had organized a similar group on the trading station of Meridian Hub. Her team specialized in gathering information about Vorthok ship movements and supply lines. We've identified 3 Vorthok vessels that regularly patrol this sector, she explained to her team. They're smaller than the ships that attacked the colonies, probably scouts or supply runners. Can we take them? Asked Dr. Nina Foster, a combat medic who had joined the resistance. Maybe, but we need better weapons and more information about their defenses. Back on Earth, Admiral Morrison received reports from these resistance groups. While he admired their courage, he knew that uncoordinated attacks would only get more people killed. We need to bring these groups together, he told his staff. If we're going to fight the Vorthok, we need unity. Lieutenant Ryan Cross spoke up. Sir, what about the Galactic Senate? When they learn we are preparing for war, they might try to stop us. Admiral Morrison's expression hardened. Let them try. For 3,000 years we've been good galactic citizens. We followed their rules, kept the peace, and contributed to their prosperity. When we needed them most, they abandoned us. The Admiral activated the main display, showing a map of human space with red markers indicating attacked colonies. The Senate thinks we're still the same peaceful humans who joined their alliance centuries ago, he continued. They've forgotten that we chose peace. We weren't forced into it. They're about to learn the difference. Dr. Morse finally succeeded in fully decoding Colonel Park's message. Hidden within the data were detailed blueprints of Vorthok technology and battle tactics. More importantly, there were schematics for weapons that could penetrate their ship defenses. This is incredible, she told Marcus. Colonel Park has been studying their technology for 20 years. She knows their weaknesses. Alina looked at the technical readouts. But how do we use this information? We're farmers and colonists, not soldiers. Marcus studied the data, his military mind analyzing the tactical possibilities. We get this information to Admiral Morrison and the resistance groups. Then we start teaching ourselves to fight again. In the depths of space, the Vorthok fleet continued its work. Aboard the command ship, the alien scientists prepared for the next phase of their plan. In holding cells deep within the ship, human children including Kai and Luna waited in fear, not knowing that across the galaxy, their families were preparing to bring them home. The age of peace was ending. The age of war was about to begin. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the warship Retribution as it emerged from hyperspace. Around him, the reactivated human fleet spread out in perfect formation. After 3 months of preparation, Operation Nightfall was finally beginning. All ships report ready, Admiral announced Captain Ryan Cross from the communications station. The young officer had proven himself during the fleet's training exercises, earning his promotion through skill rather than family connections. Morrison nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. What attention or vessels? Today we begin hunting the Vorthok. For 3,000 years, we chose peace. Today we choose war. Bring our children home. The fleet consisted of 47 ships that had been hidden in storage facilities across human space. These vessels were relics from humanity's military past, but their weapons were far more advanced than anything that Vorthok expected humans to possess. On the stealth ship Shadow's Edge, Captain Marcus Denton led a specialized strike team. His crew included Dr. Raven Morse, who had become their expert on Vorthok technology, and Tom Bradley, the former security chief from New Terra Colony. First target is a Vorthok supply convoy in the Helio sector, Marcus announced to his team. Intelligence suggests they're carrying resources for their research stations. Dr. Morse checked her equipment. I've modified our scanners based on Colonel Park's data. We should be able to detect the biomechanical signatures of their ships from a greater distance. The Shadow's Edge moved silently through space. Its stealth, the systems hiding it from Vorthok sensors. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Somewhere in the darkness, his nephew and niece were prisoners of an alien empire. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Beth Taylor worked in the underground weapons facility. The chief engineer had made an incredible discovery while reactivating the old fleet. President Cross, you need to see this, she said, leading the president into a secure vault deep beneath the military complex. Inside the vault were weapons that humanity had built centuries ago but never used. Energy cannons that could punch through any known shield, missiles that could track targets across star systems, and defensive systems that made ships nearly invulnerable. We built these during the last war before joining the Galactic Alliance, Commander Taylor explained. Then we sealed them away when we chose peace. The aliens never knew we had this technology. President Cross examined the weapons with amazement. Why didn't we use these against the Vorthok immediately? Because we forgot they existed, Taylor replied. 3,000 years of peace made us forget how to fight. We're remembering now. The first battle of the new war happened in deep space, near the edge of the galaxy. Marcus and his team ambushed a small Vorthok patrol vessel, using tactics that the aliens had never encountered before. Target their biomechanical systems, Marcus ordered as the Shadow's Edge. Do cloaked behind the enemy ship. The human weapons tore through the Vorthok vessel's defenses like paper. Within minutes, the alien ship was disabled and drifting in space. Boarding party. Prepare for entry, Marcus commanded. Dr. Morse, stay behind me. We don't know what we'll find in there. The inside of the Vorthok ship was like nothing the humans had ever seen. The walls pulsed with organic material that seemed to be alive. Strange tubes carried glowing liquid throughout the vessel, and the air smelled of chemicals and decay. The ship is part machine, part living creature, Dr. Morse observed, taking readings with her instruments. No wonder their technology is so advanced. They found the ship's crew in a central chamber. The Vorthok were tall, thin beings with gray skin and large black eyes. They wore clothing that seemed to be grown rather than manufactured, and their hands ended in long, delicate fingers. Where are the human children? Marcus demanded, pointing his weapon at the alien captain. The Vorthok leader made a sound that might have been laughter. Your offspring are beyond your reach, primitive creature. They are becoming something greater than human. Dr. Morse stepped forward with a translation device. We know about the convergence. We know you're dying out and need our children to survive. The alien captain's expression changed to surprise. Impossible. Only the inner council knows about our biological crisis. Your prisoner, Colonel Park, has been very helpful, Tom Bradley said with a grim smile. From the aliens' reaction, they knew they had gained valuable intelligence. The Vorthok captain tried to activate a self-destruct system, but Dr. Morse had already disabled it based on the technical information from Colonel Park's message. Search the ship, Marcus ordered. Look for anything that tells us where they're taking the children. While Marcus's team interrogated their first Vorthok prisoners, Admiral Morrison's main fleet struck at a supply depot in the Outer Rim. The battle was fierce but brief. The Vorthok defenders were unprepared for the human attack. Their shields can't stop our weapons, reported Captain Sophie Laurent from the cruiser Vengeance. The former intelligence officer had proven to be an excellent ship commander. Push forward, Morrison ordered. Don't give them time to call for reinforcements. The human fleet destroyed the supply depot and captured several Vorthok vessels. From each victory, they learned more about their enemy's capabilities and weaknesses. Back on the Shadow's Edge, Dr. Morse made a disturbing discovery while examining the captured Vorthok technology. Marcus, you need to see this, she called from the ship's laboratory. I found something in their computer systems. On her screen was a list of human colonies and the number of children taken from each location. But there was another list that made Marcus's blood run cold. These are names, he said, reading the data. Human names, adults. Dr. Morse nodded grimly. The Vorthok have been working with human collaborators for decades. These people have been helping them identify targets and plan the attacks. Among the names on the list were government officials, military officers, and scientists. People who had access to information about human colonies and defenses. "We have traitors," Tom Bradley said quietly. "Our own people sold out our children." The list included Dr. Alex Chen, a respected scientist who had worked with Dr. Morse on several projects. There were also names of officials in the Galactic Senate Liaison Office, and even some Defense Corps officers. "How do we know who to trust?" Marcus asked. "We don't," Dr. Morse replied. "From now on, we share information only with people we can verify." The resistance groups across human space were having their own successes. Rico Martinez's team on Titan Base had learned to manufacture weapons using Vorthok technology they had captured. Dr. Nina Foster's medical team had developed ways to treat humans who had been exposed to Vorthok bioweapons, but each victory came with losses. The Vorthok were adapting to human tactics, and their technology was still superior in many ways. For every human ship that returned from battle, another was destroyed or damaged. On the colony world of Haven, Captain Sophie Laurent led a rescue mission that saved 30 human children from a Vorthok research facility. The victory was bittersweet when they discovered what had been done to the children. "They've been changed," Dr. Forster reported after examining the rescued children. "Neural implants, biological modifications, psychological conditioning. Some of them don't even remember their real names." The children who had been rescued were physically healthy but mentally damaged. They spoke in monotone voices and showed no emotion. Some had cybernetic devices attached to their heads that the human doctors were afraid to remove. "Can they be helped?" Laurent asked. "I think so, but it will take time," Dr. Foster replied. "The Vorthok process isn't complete yet. We caught these children before the final stage." Meanwhile, Admiral Morrison received reports that the Galactic Senate was becoming concerned about human military activities. Several alien species had complained about the war disrupting trade routes and threatening the long peace. "They want us to stop fighting and negotiate," Morrison told his senior staff. "They say we're being unreasonable." "What's our response?" asked Commander Taylor. Morrison's expression was cold. "Tell them that we tried negotiation. They refused to help when we asked politely. Now we're taking our children back by force." The war was escalating. Human fleets were ranging deeper into Vorthok space, winning battles and rescuing some children, but the enemy was also responding with increased force and new tactics. Dr. Morse analyzed data from each battle, looking for patterns that might lead them to the main Vorthok facilities where most of the children were being held. "They're moving, the children frequently," she reported to Marcus, "but there's a pattern. All the transport ships eventually head toward the same sector of space." Marcus studied the star charts. "That's deep in Vorthok territory. We'd need a major fleet action to reach it, or a very good stealth ship with a small, determined crew," Dr. Morse suggested. As the third month of the war ended, humanity had proven they could fight the Vorthok Empire, but they also realized the true scope of their enemy's plans. The convergence was more than just an experiment. It was the Vorthok's plan for survival, and they would fight desperately to protect it. In the depths of space, the battle for humanity's future continued. Every human ship that entered Vorthok space carried the hopes and fears of families across the galaxy. The hunt for the missing children had become a war for the soul of humanity itself. Deep in Vorthok space, Colonel Lisa Park sat in her cell aboard the massive research station. For 20 years, she had been a prisoner of the alien empire, forced to help them understand human biology. Now, as she watched the final preparations for the convergence, she knew her time was running out. The station around her buzzed with activity. Thousands of Vorthok scientists and technicians moved through the corridors, preparing for what their leaders called the greatest advancement in their species' history. "Human Park," came a voice from the cell door. Commander Vextel, the Vorthok leader who had captured her decades ago, entered the small room. "The final phase begins today. Your people's resistance has been ... instructive." Lisa looked up at the tall alien. Over the years she had learned to read Vorthok expressions. Vextel was worried, though he tried to hide it. "The human fleet is stronger than you expected," she said. "Irrelevant," Vextel replied. "Once the convergence is complete, we will have access to human tactical thinking. Your species' military knowledge will become ours." Through the small window of her cell, Lisa could see the central processing facility. Inside that massive structure, over 40,000 human children waited in holding chambers. She had helped design the integration process years ago, believing the Vorthok's lies about peaceful cooperation between species. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Morrison studied the intelligence reports from Marcus's reconnaissance missions. The location of the main Vorthok facility had finally been confirmed. "It's a fortress," Morrison told his senior staff, "heavily defended, surrounded by minefields, and protected by their most advanced ships." Captain Ryan Cross pointed to the tactical display. "We count at least 200 Vorthok vessels guarding the station. Our fleet is strong, but we're still outnumbered." Commander Beth Taylor had been working on modifications to their weapons. "Systems have analyzed the data from our previous battles. The Vorthok shields have a weakness, but it only appears for a few seconds during their charging cycle." "How few seconds?" Morrison asked. 3, maybe 4. "We'd need perfect timing and coordination across the entire fleet." Dr. Raven Morse joined the meeting via communication link from the Shadow's Edge. "There's something else you need to know. According to the data we captured, the convergence process is accelerating. They're planning to integrate all the children within the next 48 hours. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If they failed to reach the children in time, the rescue mission would become meaningless. Meanwhile, Marcus Denton led his strike team through the outer defenses of the Vorthok system. The Shadow's Edge used its stealth capabilities to avoid detection while gathering final intelligence on the enemy fortress. "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the central facility," Dr. Morse reported from her instruments. "The integration chambers are already active." Tom Bradley monitored communications between Vorthok ships. "They're receiving reports about our main fleet's approach. They know we're coming." Marcus felt the weight of command pressing down on him. In a few hours, Admiral Morrison would arrive with the human fleet. Success or failure would depend on split-second timing and incredible luck. Back on the research station, the first group of human children was being prepared for the final integration phase. Among them were Kai and Luna, who had spent months in Vorthok captivity. The children had been subjected to preliminary neural conditioning, but their human consciousness remained intact. They had been told that the convergence would make them part of something greater, but they didn't understand what that really meant. "I want to go home," Luna whispered to her brother as Vorthok technicians attached monitoring devices to their heads. "Uncle Marcus will come for us," Kai replied, though his voice showed doubt after months of imprisonment. Around them, other human children from colonies across the galaxy waited in similar chambers. Some were as young as 5 years old, others as old as 15. All had been chosen for their developing neural pathways and their potential for integration into the Vorthok collective consciousness. The Vorthok scientists began the process by flooding the children's chambers with a gas that made them drowsy but kept their minds active. This was necessary for the neural mapping that would come next. "Begin Phase 1 integration," announced the head scientist, a Vorthok elder named Threshkell, who had supervised the project for decades. Inner cell. Lisa Park watched the process begin. She had helped design these procedures, believing she was contributing to peaceful contact between species. The guilt of her participation had haunted her for 20 years. "I have to do something," she whispered to herself. Lisa had spent years learning the layout of the research station. She knew where the critical systems were located and how to access them. More importantly, she had discovered a way to disrupt the integration process from within. The Vorthok had made one crucial mistake. They had given her access to their computer systems to help with the research. Over the years, she had carefully planted hidden programs that could shut down the integration chambers if activated. Dr. Alex Chen stood in the human fleet's command center on Earth, watching the tactical displays with apparent concern. As one of the senior scientists advising Admiral Morrison, he had access to all the fleet's plans and communications. What the other humans didn't know was that Chen had been in contact with the Vorthok for over a year. He had been promised that his own family would be spared if he provided information about human military capabilities. "Admiral Morrison is moving faster than expected," Chen reported to his Vorthok contact through a hidden communication device. "The attack will begin in 6 hours. The Vorthok commander on the other end of the transmission was pleased. "Excellent. Our defenses will be ready. The human fleet will be destroyed, and their resistance will end." Chen felt sick about his betrayal, but fear for his family's safety drove him to continue. He didn't know that the Vorthok had no intention of keeping their promises to human collaborators. The battle began when Admiral Morrison's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Vorthok system. The sight that greeted them was terrifying and magnificent at the same time. The Vorthok fortress was a massive structure that seemed to be part machine, part living creature. Ships the size of cities surrounded it, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with energy. Weapon platforms hung in space like metallic flowers, ready to unleash destruction on the approaching human fleet. All ships, battle formation, Alpha, Morrison, commanded, "Remember, we need to create an opening for the strike teams. Focus fire on the shield generators. The human ships moved with precision that surprised the Vorthok defenders. For 3,000 years, the aliens had known humans as peaceful traders and diplomats. They were unprepared for the tactical brilliance that humanity had once used to conquer half the galaxy. Captain Sophie Laurent led the first attack wave in her ship Vengeance. Her task was to draw the enemy's attention while Marcus's stealth team approached from another direction. "Incoming enemy fire," reported her tactical officer. "Their weapons are more powerful than anything we've faced before." "Evasive maneuvers," Laurent ordered. "Stay focused on the mission." The space battle was unlike anything seen in the galaxy. For millennia, human ships darted between massive Vorthok vessels, using speed and agility to avoid the aliens' heavy weapons. The humans' advanced targeting systems allowed them to hit weak points in enemy defenses with surgical precision. But the Vorthok had advantages too. Their biomechanical ships could repair damage quickly, and their weapons had longer range than human technology. Inside the research station, Lisa Park made her move. Using access codes she had memorized over 20 years, she began activating the hidden programs she had planted in the Vorthok computer systems. "Integration process disrupted in sectors 7 through 12, announced a confused technician. Threshko, the head scientist, rushed to investigate. "What is causing this malfunction?" "Unknown Elder, the computers are executing commands that are not in our programming." As alarms began sounding throughout the station, Lisa smiled for the first time in years. Her sabotage was working, but she knew it would only delay the convergence, not stop it completely. The battle in space intensified as more Vorthok ships joined the fight. Admiral Morrison watched his tactical display as red lights indicated damaged human vessels. "We're taking heavy casualties," reported Captain Cross. "The enemy defenses are stronger than expected." Morrison gritted his teeth. The intelligence they had been using was incomplete, possibly because of the human traitors. Working with the "Continue the attack," he ordered. "Our children are counting on us." In the integration chambers, Kai and Luna felt the effects of Lisa Park's sabotage. The neural conditioning process stopped suddenly, leaving them confused but more alert than they had been in weeks. "Something's happening," Kai whispered to his sister. The machines stopped working. Around them, other children were also recovering from the drugged state they had been kept in. For the first time in months they began to remember their families and their homes clearly. The Vorthok technicians worked frantically to repair their systems, but Lisa's programs were designed to create cascading failures throughout the network. Each time they fixed one problem, 3 more appeared. Commander Vextel realized what was happening and rushed to Lisa's cell, but he found it empty. The human prisoner had finally escaped after 20 years of captivity. "Find her," he commanded his guards. She must not reach the primary control center. The fate of both species now hung in the balance as the battle raged both in space and within the research station itself. Colonel Lisa Park moved through the corridors of the Vorthok research station like a ghost. After 20 years of imprisonment, she knew every passage and maintenance tunnel in the massive facility. Her destination was the primary control center, where she could completely shut down the convergence process. Behind her, Vorthok guards searched frantically, but Lisa had learned their patrol patterns years ago. She reached the control center just as the space battle outside reached its peak intensity. "Authorization required," the alien computer announced as she approached the main console. Lisa smiled and entered the override codes she had memorized. During her years of force cooperation, authorization granted. Begin emergency shutdown of all integration systems. Alarms blared throughout the station as the neural integration chambers began powering down. In the holding areas, human children started waking up from their drugged state, confused but alive. Meanwhile, Captain Marcus Denton guided the Shadow's Edge through the chaos of the space battle. His stealth ship had avoided detection so far, but now he needed to reach the research station before the Vorthok realized what was happening. "I'm reading massive system failures throughout the enemy station," Dr. Raven Morse reported from her instruments. "Someone is sabotaging their operation from the inside." "That has to be Colonel Park," Marcus replied. Tom prepared the boarding. Shuttles were going in. The space battle around them was devastating. Admiral Morrison's fleet fought with desperate courage against overwhelming odds. Human ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, while others limped away with critical damage. On the bridge of the Retribution, Morrison watched his tactical display with growing concern. "We're losing too many ships," he told Captain Ryan. "Cross, the enemy defenses are holding, sir." "I'm detecting something unusual," Cross reported. "Energy readings from the research station are dropping rapidly." Morrison studied the data. The sabotage is working. Order all ships to concentrate fire on the station's shield generators. We need to create an opening for the rescue teams. Dr. Alex Chen watched the battle from Earth's command center, his face pale with guilt. The human fleet was taking heavy losses, partly because of the intelligence he had provided to the void. His betrayal was costing lives. The fleet needs reinforcements, Chen said to the other officers. We should send more ships. What Chen didn't know was that President Diana Cross had discovered his treachery. Security officers were already on their way to arrest him. Dr. Chen, the president said as she entered the command center, you're under arrest for treason. Chen's face went white as security officers surrounded him. You don't understand. They threatened my family. Your family is safe, President, Cross replied coldly. They've been in protective custody for weeks. We've known about your communications with the Vorthok since the beginning. Inside the research station, Kai and Luna woke up in their integration chamber as the systems shut down around them. The neural conditioning devices fell silent, and for the first time in months, their minds were completely clear. Luna, we need to get out of here, Kai whispered to his sister. The 8-year-old boy had grown older during his captivity, his innocent face now marked by the wisdom that comes from surviving something terrible dart around them. Other human children were also waking up. Some were crying, others were angry, but all of them remembered their families and their homes. The youngest ones called for their parents, while the older children tried to comfort them. The doors are unlocked, said Amy Bradley, Tom's 14-year-old daughter. Whatever's happening, someone is helping us. The children began moving through the corridors of the station, following emergency exit signs that Lisa Park had activated. They didn't know who was helping them, but they understood this might be their only chance to escape. Colonel Lisa Park reached the central processing core, the heart of the Vorthok integration system. The massive chamber contained the collective consciousness of the entire Vorthok species, a biomechanical network that stored the memories and knowledge of millions of aliens. So this is what you really are, Lisa said, looking at the pulsing, organic computers that filled the room. A dying species trying to steal the life force of children. She began entering commands that would not only shut down the convergence but also damage the Vorthok collective consciousness itself. It was dangerous, but necessary to prevent them from ever trying this again. Elder Threskull burst into the chamber with a squad of guards. Stop, human. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly, Lisa replied without turning around. You're parasites. You've been stealing the biological traits of other species for centuries. Humanity is just your latest victim. We are trying to survive, Threskull said desperately. Our species is dying. The integration process would have saved both our peoples. Lisa finished entering the shutdown sequence and turned to face the alien elder. By destroying the individuality that makes us human. By turning our children into copies of yourselves. That's not salvation, it's genocide. The processing core began shutting down, its organic components withering as the collective consciousness collapsed. Throughout the station, Vorthok personnel collapsed as their connection to the hive mind was severed. Marcus Denton's boarding party reached the research station. Just as the children began their escape, the Shadow's Edge docked with the station's emergency port, and Marcus led his team through the corridors toward the holding areas. Uncle Marcus, Kai's voice echoed through the passage as he spotted his uncle. Marcus felt tears in his eyes as he saw his nephew and niece running toward him. They were thinner than he remembered, and their eyes held shadows that hadn't been there before, but they were alive and free. We knew you'd come, Luna said as she hugged him tightly. Behind them, hundreds of other human children emerged from the station's depths. Some were injured, others were traumatized, but all of them were survivors. Dr. Morse immediately began medical evaluations while Tom Bradley searched for his daughter, Amy. The space battle was turning in humanity's favor, as the Vorthok fleet began to falter. Without their collective consciousness to coordinate their actions, the alien ships became confused and vulnerable. All enemy vessels are withdrawing, reported Captain Sophie Laurent. From the Vengeance, their formation is collapsing. Admiral Morrison seized the opportunity. All ships, pursue and destroy. Don't let them regroup. The human fleet pressed their advantage, destroying Vorthok ships that had seemed invincible just hours before. The aliens' biomechanical technology failed without the central consciousness to guide it. In the research station's control center, Colonel Lisa Park made a final recording before the facility's destruction. This is Colonel Lisa Park, recording my final message. The convergence has been stopped, and the children are free. The Vorthok collective consciousness has been destroyed, ending their threat to humanity and other species. She paused, looking at the devastation around her. The age of galactic peace is over. Humanity has remembered how to fight, and we've learned that sometimes violence is the only answer to evil. The research station began to collapse as its biomechanical systems failed completely. Marcus and his team evacuated with all the rescued children just before the massive structure tore itself apart. Weeks later, President Diana Cross addressed the reformed Galactic Senate. Many of the alien species that had refused to help humanity were now eager to make amends. For 3,000 years, we believed that peace could be maintained through diplomacy and compromise, she said. We learned that some enemies can only be stopped by force. The Draknari ambassador, who had previously dismissed human concerns, now spoke with respect. Humanity has proven that they are not the weak species we believed them to be. President Cross's expression remained cold. We were never weak. We chose to be peaceful. There's a difference, and it's one you would do well to remember. The rescued children returned to their families, but they were forever changed by their experience. Kai and Luna went home with Marcus and Alina to rebuild their lives on New Terra Colony. They were no longer innocent children, but they were survivors who understood the true cost of freedom. In the years that followed, humanity took its place as one of the galaxy's major military powers. The Defense Corps was rebuilt into a force capable of protecting human colonies across the galaxy. The age of assuming that peace would protect them was over. Other species watched with a mixture of fear and respect as humanity established patrol fleets and defensive stations throughout their territory. That humans had learned that in a dangerous galaxy, only strength could guarantee safety. The Vorthok Empire collapsed completely, its remaining population scattered across the galaxy as refugees. Some humans argued for mercy, but most remembered the sight of their stolen children and felt no sympathy for their former captors. Marcus Denton was promoted to admiral and given command of the new defense fleet. On quiet evenings, he would sit with Kai and Luna and tell them stories of the old days when humanity trusted in peace. But he also made sure they knew how to fight, because the galaxy had taught them all a terrible lesson about the price of weakness. The 3,000 years of peace were over. The age of humanity had begun.